to you.
Thanks, Nick, and want to thank everybody for taking the time to connect with us today. So I'm Keaton Kapadia. I'm the co-founder and CEO at BlokSec, and I'm also going to pass it over to Mike, who's my partner in crime in this venture. Mike, do you want to introduce yourself?
Yeah, sure. Sorry, I'm not able to turn my video on. I'm rural today, and I'm on literal bandwidth, literal dial-up bandwidth today. But so my name is Mike Gill, and I'm the CTO and co-founder of BlokSec. So thanks everybody.
Thanks, Mike. So we are a blockchain startup with a focus in decentralized identity. And really what our goal is to really help with these cyber attacks related to phishing attacks, identity fraud, and sort of the online digital fraud. Come on, keyboard. Sorry. So we all know passwords are broken. Passwords are by far the weakest link in cybersecurity. We have been using passwords for the last 60 years to safeguard our important data, but they really provide a false sense of security. We as users are also experiencing password fatigue, upwards to about having 100 plus accounts and trying to remember a unique password for each website. It's literally impossible for us humans to remember this. And then really what this leads to is the malicious attackers, try to harvest your passwords. And if you reuse those passwords, it basically gives them a doorway into accessing one or many accounts that belong to you and basically act on your behalf without any consent or without your knowledge. And passwords obviously also have a financial impact to all of us, right? So by year 2025, it is expected that the online fraud is going to cost it's going to have a global impact of close to about $200 billion by 2025. So this is a huge number. And this stats over here of 2.9 million every minute, where 80% of that is contributed to stolen passwords. These numbers were actually predicted prior to the COVID situation. And we know these numbers have gone up, especially we have seen a surge in phishing attacks by 667% just in sort of Q1 and Q2 of this year. And these numbers are definitely going to increase.
So at BlokSec, really our mission is to create a platform that will empower organizations to really protect websites and mobile applications that they already have with more modern technology that's going to be more secure and much stronger. So really the key to being able to identify somebody, passwords do it in a very weak way. We provide a really unique tri-factor mechanism for authenticating users. We leverage digital signatures that are generated on a user's device. So this of course is where part of the blockchain play comes in. And our login flow eliminates threats like phishing and man-in-the-middle attacks, and brute force, of course, is not possible with the advanced cryptography. We also introduce this concept of digital consent. So if you're simply logging into a site, you're providing consent to share your information with that site. But then of course online, we all do a lot of things that are much higher value, such as transferring funds around or even just making a simple purchase. So we do gather users' digital consent, and we maintain a fingerprint of that transaction on the blockchain for provability of that transaction in the future. We've built our system to be easy to integrate. So of course, we're not going to be able to get much traction with companies if they can't plug it in. Even though this is sort of a newer platform, we're leveraging the existing open protocols. So really this can be plugged into a website or application in minutes and only takes a few lines of code. And then users are managing their own decentralized identities. So really they get to manage the information about themselves, and we're maintaining an immutable association between their identity and what we need to send back to websites and applications that are relying on our platform. And here's a little shout out for our WTIA connection. We're actually partnered with ArcBlock, which is a company that we met through WTIA back in February to underpin some of this decentralized identity capability. And then I guess finally, none of this would be very useful if it wasn't super easy for the users to use. So from a user perspective, you don't have to remember passwords anymore. You don't have to type in any codes. All you have to do is really unlock your mobile device and provide your consent. And so I'll pass it back to Caton. He can show you what that looks like.
Yeah. Thank you, Mike. So we're going to do a quick demo over here so we can kind of walk you through the capability. So on the left-hand side, we have a fictitious banking site called Luvion, and I have my mobile app over here, which is branded with BlokSec. Now, we do also publish mobile SDKs. So obviously, if you have a mobile app today, you can integrate our SDKs as part of your existing mobile app. So just to show from what a login process looks like. So, as you are familiar, many websites today allow you to log in the username and password. You have your social logins, but now you can also enable the login with the BlokSec's passwordless login. So at this point in time, when I click on login, it's going to basically redirect me to a login page. And at this point in time, I'm basically going to type in my username over here. And once I click login, you will see that I got a real-time push notification on my mobile device for an authentication request. So when I click on it, it's basically giving me the context around the actual event, right? So it's basically telling me that I do have a authentication request coming in from Luvion and a information around what account am I trying to log into. So at this point in time, I'm going to say yes. And now it's also asking me for my biometric type information. So this is sort of where some of the tri-factor verification process comes into play. And then once I sort of sign that signature, and once it's sort of verified with some of the consensus-based model that we use from a blockchain perspective, the user is redirected to the secure side from a login perspective. The other use case that I also wanted to quickly walk through was to sort of deal with the transfer of funds. Now, I know in US, most of the banks today do enable a multi-factor authentication. In Canada, we are still backwards. We actually only have one or a couple of banks who actually offer that. And we've seen a lot of issues recently where people's credentials are compromised and there's basically wire transfers happening place. So one of the things that we also do, from a solution perspective, which we talked really earlier, was around the digital consent from a payment perspective. So at this point in time, I'm going to say, I want to transfer funds. And at this point in time, as you can see, I got a real-time push notification again to my mobile that says, hey, there's a fund transfer request that came in from you to this person for this amount. Do you actually approve this particular transaction? So again, as you can see, the flow is very consistent and similar from a usability perspective, but at the same time, me as a user now, I'm getting that real-time context if my account is compromised and if someone's trying to move money without my knowledge and consent, I now have the ability to sort of control that in real time. So with that, I'm going to jump back to these slides over here. So these are some of our early adopters who have really helped us in validating our approach and solution. So Cloudentity is a security software vendor. They provide API and authorization services. And Acreage Way is a Canadian company where they offer an investment option from an online perspective. So they're obviously are our early adopters from a technology perspective. So where do we need your help in? So obviously for us, we are looking for contacts in the e-commerce and finance sector to really help us support our growth and market penetration, and obviously help their customers to adopt a solution which is simple and much secure. And we're also looking for introductions to seed investors who are focused in the blockchain and the security space. And with them, I'm going to open up for any questions.
Awesome, nicely done.